Well, we've had plenty of pregame, but now millions of people plan to make their voices actually heard at the ballot box in less than 24 hours. In fact, the Illinois State Board of Elections says they are seeing an increase in registration and early voting so far.
Well, there is something a little different about this particular election cycle: automatic voter registration. It's the first election for the program to be implemented, or is it? 25 News reporter Lauren Melendez is digging deeper into why some are confused about how it all works.
In July, the Secretary of State's office partially implemented automatic voter registration through its driver facilities. This after lawmakers passed legislation in 2017 creating a unique program. But recent reports claim that it wasn't carried out correctly, causing issues between Jesse White's office and voter groups. On top of that, some don't even know how it works. When Illinois residents visit a Secretary of State's office for a new license, state ID, or to officially become a resident, they're often asked this.
Did you need to register to vote today?
Under the old system, yes, we said old, everything was completely done on paper. But that's changing.
The application process to register to vote would be sent to the Illinois State Board of Elections, and then they would work with the county clerks on registering people to vote. It's actually the county clerks that officially register someone to vote.
Once the ID process goes through and the resident is verified, they receive a voter ID card in the mail.
Now serving
But the AVR bill is what helps streamline that process and eventually for a resident to be automatically registered once they give that proper documentation, unless they opt out.
It's quite simple, quite effective, quite efficient, and the information is sent electronically to the Illinois State Board of Elections.
In essence, the program allows you to set it and forget it. With your name already in the database, you're ballot ready come election season.
I don't think anyone's going to come to the Secretary of State because they want to register to vote. They come to the Secretary of State to transact business, whether it be their driver's license, ID card, vehicle registration. But because the process is so convenient, they can register to vote, provided they're a U.S. citizen, at any of our 138 facilities, and everything is done electronically.
Well, that was the plan when Illinois became one of 12 states, including D.C., to pass a bill with an auto voting setup. But some say the state failed to meet the July 1st deadline.
On July 2nd, we started the first phase of automatic voter registration, and it's a bit of a misnomer at this point because the automatic part is not fully in place.
The Secretary of State's office confirmed they couldn't finish the process in time because of something called the Federal Real ID Act.
You need to bring in extra documentation. Specifically, you'll need to bring in a birth certificate or naturalization papers or your passport, for example.
Real ID was passed by Congress in 2005 as a way to create a consistent identification process for all states. They actually don't look much different than the standard ID you have now, but in order to get one, you have to go to a driver facility, prove your identity, proof of address, citizenship, and social security status.
There's nothing when you get your driver's license renewed in which you prove your citizenship or you attest to whatever your citizenship status is. And for that reason, when you do your voting application at the driver's license office, they need to ask you, do you want to register to vote? And you need to say, yes, I do intend to register to vote, and you also need to attest to your citizenship.
Here's where things get shaken up a bit. Administrators of automatic voting argue that folks who aren't U.S. citizens would essentially slip through the cracks and accidentally register to vote, which is why once the system is set up, it'll have 2 tiers.
One of the top priorities to Secretary White is to ensure the integrity of the election process. We do not want the automatic voter registration program to become the automatic deportation program.
Here's what it means for you. Come spring 2019, when the state projects that the federal Real ID law will be fully implemented here, people who have a Real ID will be auto-enrolled to vote. Why? Because you've already taken the steps to prove your citizenship. Now, if you did go to the Secretary of State's office recently, do not assume that you're automatically registered for the presidential election in 2020. This is because Real ID isn't finished. You can't fully take advantage of Illinois' AVR bill until that federal Real ID Act is, well, real. Tyler and Caitlin.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Now remember, If you did not register online and you do want to vote tomorrow, you can register at your polling site, but you will need 2 forms of ID.
How the Panthers roared back is next with Jim in sports.